Last week we finally got some sailing on the Inside Passage. We sailed south to Form Bay, historically a big logging area. Then we continued to Ketchikan, the southernmost town in Alaska.
Ketchikan is the first port of call in Alaska for ships and aircraft entering from the south. The town is a major tourist attraction, mainly because of the cruise ships that stop here before continuing north on the Inside Passage. Some days there can be up to 5 ships here at the same time. Ketchikan has the world's largest collection of totem poles.
To fish in Alaska, you need a fishing license, and for non-residents they're quite expensive. So instead of spending $280 for 2 licenses and then money to buy the right gear, we have bought fish from the local fishermen.
Creek Street was once the red light district in Ketchikan and was the place for bootlegging, prostitution and gambling. Back in the days, Ketchikan must have been a pretty rough place. But opportunities in logging, fishing, hunting and mining made fortune-seeking men and women that were looking for a new and prosperous life come up here. And if you have an adventurous mind, it's easy to understand why. Two of our viewers stopped by and gave us some shrimps and sockeye and king salmon. So I made an Asian noodle salad with sockeye for dinner.
Provisioning in Alaska has been pretty easy. And it's not too far between the villages where it's possible to top up on food and fuel. In most of the harbors and marinas here in Alaska, there are no cleats to tie up to. Instead, you just take your lines around the thick planks on the dock and back to the boat. Simple and strong and suits all types of lines and boats, from small sailboats to the big heavy fishing boats.
Before leaving Ketchikan, we fueled up.
Yeah, we're almost dry on diesel. And we got this filled. Really good.
I think it was the easiest place to get propane filled on since we left Sweden. Really nice. Yeah, we're leaving Ketchikan today and we're going to anchor in Foggy Bay for tonight and then continue to Canada tomorrow. Bye bye. Alright, we're checked out. It's pretty easy. Just give them your cruising license and they check you out. You don't need to have any stamps in the passport or anything like that. The only thing is that when we come to Canada, yeah, I don't really understand it, but they are going to send back a paper that we have in our passports to the United States, and that will be the proof that we have left the United States.
It was a calm day at sea, but the weather was beautiful. We stopped for the night in the southernmost anchorage in Alaska. Today is the day when we leave Alaska. A little bit sad, but excited to go to Canada. So it's gonna be really exciting. So finally, yesterday we decided to go another 25 miles actually. So we anchored for the night in really the southern part of Alaska. So we're really close to the border now. So it was just behind us here. It was called the Lincoln Channel. This is where we anchored last night. And today we're heading south into Canada and down to Prince Rupert.
Full bass. So yesterday I did some bullbayes. Really nice. Maybe not so healthy. A lot of cream in this, but it's good. So we're in this channel on our way to Prince Rupert. It's pretty narrow here, and a lot of these areas where there's water now are above water when it's low tide. I think it's mid-tide now, and so far there's not so much current, but we don't really know if there's a lot of current in this channel. I guess we'll have to see. But you have to take care because it's pretty shallow in some areas here, and a lot of traffic.
In 0.2 miles is super shallow. Look here. The blue is when it gets shallow. This is land when it's low tide. So we're gonna go through here. It says 3. Well, so we should have a meter to go. It's like a maze between in this channel, like between small islands and shallows. Okay. I think this is a good course. It's a little bit more, little deeper here than there.
Men gå efter sjökortet. Some of these buoys are not in the correct place here. I don't know if it's probably the current that's dragged them out of position. This looks strange.
But the depth is good.
It is, yeah.
It's well.
But what course should I have now?
Just continue in this direction where it could go.
And there's a motorboat in front of us there. So it's been 2 years now since we crossed the Atlantic and arrived to these areas where you have green on return. So you have the red buoys on your starboard side when you're entering marinas or when you're entering a channel coming from the outside going in, and green when you return going back out again on your starboard side. In Europe it's the opposite. You always have the green buoys on your starboard side when you're entering a marina. And I can't get used to this system with the red buoys on your starboard side when you're going in. What do you think? What's the correct way? Isn't it strange that they can't have an international rule for the whole globe? I mean, I guess it doesn't matter which system you have, but it would be nice if it would be the same all over the world. Good job navigating.
Thank you.
It's pretty narrow here. Prince Rupert's nickname is Rainy Rupert because of the amount of rain the town gets. But we were lucky with sun and really warm weather. They have a 150 horsepower outboard engine on their dinghy over there. That's more than 3 times the engine size we have inside Ron.
Alfy has the YouTube channel Life is Like Sailing, where he shares his sailing experiences in British Columbia. We met up with him and his partner Devlin to chat about sailing.
Well, I'm born and raised in Vancouver, British Columbia, which is Canada's west coast. And I've been cruising on this coast for over 20 years. Bought my first sailboat in 1997. I had never been on a sailboat before, and I decided to try it out, and it was during the sea trial for that purchase that I was sailing for the first time. So I kind of fell in love with it, and just being raised on the coast, it's a beautiful place to cruise. And my parents met in a small little village that's in central BC, Ocean Falls. You might see it on your travels down.
Yeah.
And so I guess it's in my blood to cruise on this coast.
Cool.
And I'm living in Prince Rupert now. I've been living on my boat for almost 5 years. I always wanted to try living on a sailboat. And I would like to cruise beyond British Columbia one day, but that day hasn't come yet. There's so much. It will. There's just so much to see here.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're getting a taste of it. You've just arrived.
Yes.
It's a pretty amazing place to explore.
Definitely.
And when people ask me what's it like to cruise in British Columbia's northern areas, I just say it's rugged and remote, and like it's an amazing place that has wildlife and a lot of beauty.
I moved out to Prince Rupert in the North Coast about 11 years ago from central Canada, and my first job out here, we had a boat that we would go out and do 5-day work trips on or 7-day work trips on. So I got to see a lot of the North Coast in tiny little inlets, going and looking at forestry operations and getting to see just different parts of this area, and fell in love with the coast. And so I've been pretty lucky to be able to get out with Alfy.
What would you say, like, the best things are about this area, and what would be good to think about before you go sailing up here?
Well, definitely for British Columbia's north coast, insulate your boat. That's what I did before I moved up here. And because I owned the boat, it was in Vancouver, and the current boat that I have now. And before I moved up, I insulated every inch that I could, and that's made a huge difference. There's no condensation in my boat, it stays warm. Something else I did before I moved up is I laid down carpet and underlay for the entire cabin sole, and that made a huge difference in warmth. Last year we went cruising, and it was unusually cold and wet June, and I had taken the carpet out because it was summertime, and I regretted it the day we left. I was like, why did I take the carpet out? Because it did make a big difference in comfort. So insulating the boat is really important, and being prepared to have to be self-sufficient. You know, like, you can't just pull into the next bay and there's a mechanic there.
No.
So knowing how to do preventative maintenance, and knowing where you can pick up weather. Like, there's even areas that are difficult to get weather on the VHF. So planning your trip, planning your routes, having a backup route, you know, like if I can't make it here. Another thing that you have to deal a lot with up here is current. You know, we were going down some channels where it's on the flood, it's 3 knots north, on the ebb, it's 3 knots south. Well, when you hit that channel, you want to go with the tide, you know, when you're only doing 6 knots. So you really do have to time your days around the current and around what daylight you have, depending on the time of year. But it's all worth it, though. It's a really great spot to see, and I hope more people will come and see the north coast of British Columbia.
Yeah, we hope that too. And I think today, with like the modern technology, all the chart plotters we have, I mean, it's so easy to find the tides and the currents, and you have satellite phones, you can get weather. So I think that really helps out a lot and makes it easier.
Makes it easier.
Yeah, it's important to be prepared like that, and not overthink it, but
exactly.
But don't go out half prepared.
Yeah.
No.
Like plan your days, and you do have to plan them up here because there's some long days when you're going down. There's no help
Exactly.
for a long time.
Yeah.
One other thing you're going to see a lot of on the north coast is wildlife. We were kayaking this weekend on the beach that we were camping on, not too far from here, and we saw whales breaching, humpback whales, and we probably saw about 40 breaches
Wow.
in a matter of 30 minutes.
Yeah.
It was, I've never seen that before. That was so many.
Yeah.
And then we spent 2 days kayaking, and we had whales not too far from us, and tail flapping, and so you'll see a lot of whales up here this time of year, and bears, wolves.
How about orcas going south from here, Prince Rupert? Will it be possible to see a lot of orcas?
It's possible to see orcas,
Yeah.
and we've seen them here in the harbor even,
Yeah.
but they seem to be a little bit more on the move. You'll see probably more humpbacks.
Yeah.
There's more of those around. And as you get closer, like Johnson Strait at the top end of Vancouver Island, there's a lot of local orcas in that area
Yeah.
that live in that area. So
Right.
I think the ones up here are a little more transient.
Yeah.
They come and go.
That's the one now that's feeding off the seals, right?
Yes, yeah,
And the ones
mammals
that stay put, they feed
feed
off
off the fish. Yeah,
We
yeah.
heard
So the
about
transient ones will kill other small whales.
Yeah.
They'll kill baby humpbacks
that. Yeah.
and seals.
How about the sailing? I mean, can you say something about? I mean, so far, our time in Alaska, now coming down here to BC, it's been
Not a lot of sailing.
no, it's been not a lot of sailing. It's been a lot of motoring. When we've been sailing, it's been mostly downwind, or we could make the option to tack against 20 knots of wind in these channels, at least up north in Alaska. And a lot of times we decided to motoring because we're just going to the next anchorage, maybe 5 miles. So okay, let's motor against it.
So you're well prepared for BC's coast.
Yeah.
It's the same.
It's the same.
Yeah.
There's so many narrow channels. If you want to stay on the inside and stay protected.
Yeah.
And so the wind is either going to be on your nose, or it's going to be behind you.
Yeah.
So when we left Hartley Bay a few weeks ago, coming north up Grenville Channel, we had the wind behind us, we had the current with us, and we were doing almost 9 knots over ground.
Nice.
So those are the days that you really appreciate because it could have been current against us and wind against us, and we could be doing 3 knots over ground. Yeah, sometimes you get lucky and you get the wind behind you, but it's difficult to sail upwind because it's so narrow in some spots.
We've seen that too. It's narrow, and if you have some current against you as well, the tax is like 180 degrees. You're not coming in anywhere.
And traffic.
Yeah, and traffic too.
There's a lot of boats transiting up and down. Not just pleasure boats, but commercial boats too. Cruise ships are going to be going along some of these very narrow channels where you're going to be hugging the shore just to let them through.
Exactly.
Because you probably saw some of the cruise ships in Alaska.
Yeah.
One other thing that I hadn't mentioned, this time of year, it's August, also known as Fogust. So you may have dealt with some fog.
Yeah.
Not so much down here, but up in Prince Rupert and coming into Kodiak.
Prince William.
Prince William's Sound, and coming into Kodiak we have a lot of fog.
So this time of year you might deal with more fog, and when we were coming back the last day of our trip, we had 0.2 nautical miles visibility.
Yeah.
So not much.
No.
So it's that was just at one point, but so that's something you have to be prepared for as well as fog. But it usually burns off, and then you get these beautiful sunny days like we always have in Prince Rupert.
Do you have do you have a radar on your boat?
I don't, but we're looking into that for next year and AIS, and it's just something that's a very useful tool in this area, and a good radar reflector.
But
we don't have a radar, but we have AIS.
We have a transponder, and AIS.
If you don't have radar, which I don't, and I've traveled in the fog a lot, I hug the shores. And the shore. The nice thing about the coast up here is there's the shore, and 30 feet off the shore, it's 100 feet deep.
So,
they're just big fjords.
Exactly.
So you don't have to worry about bumping into anything. And if you're that close to shore, the bigger ships are going to be coming down the center. So.
And you might have, like, we had the air horn, right? So if you're in fog, you have the air horn, and what we found going down Grenville Channel, when it's really foggy, other boats are on the VHF. And so there's lots of communication around how you're passing to make sure that everyone's safe.
How long would you say that the season lasts up here? I mean, could you sail up here for the whole year in the BC?
We were sailing on a weekend trip in January.
Yeah.
And that was just not too far, but you can sail year round on Canada's west coast.
Because you won't get ice in most places.
No ice.
Right? No?
But this January, the middle of January, we had 21 degrees Celsius
Wow.
air temperature.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
I was
amazing.
in my t-shirt washing my boat in
Like
January.
now,
Yeah,
like today.
yeah. And so that doesn't happen all the time.
No, of
But
course.
the coast is very mild. It's a rainforest.
Yeah.
So you do get a lot of rain, so be prepared for that. But it's mild. You can get systems that come on suddenly.
Is it mostly, I mean, the most rain comes in the autumn? Or in spring?
Winter.
Winter.
Yeah. So the cruising season, the more popular time to cruise Canada's west coast is, say, May to October.
Yeah.
Or end of September. That would be when most of the cruisers are out. And of course the peak would be July and August. But you can cruise year round. Of course your days are a lot shorter.
Yeah.
In June, the sun doesn't even set here in Prince Rupert till after 10:30 at night.
Yeah.
So you get some
that's
long
nice.
days.
Yeah.
And that really is nice for when you have those days of transit. You know.
Definitely, yeah.
Definitely makes a
Of
big
course,
difference.
the winter has some very short days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
We know all about that.
yeah. So
Yeah.
Do you have any timeline on when you want to go cruising full time, or maybe you
Yeah,
go
yeah.
cruising together full time?
well, that's something I think of all the time, of course. So yeah, I would like to work for 9 more years. I have 9 more years until I can get my full pension.
Yeah.
And at that point, I think I'll just keep cruising British Columbia's coast from the south to the north, maybe southeast Alaska and maybe more northern Alaska, get up to Kodiak where you guys just were, and Dutch Harbor.
Yeah.
If I'm feeling very adventurous, maybe the Northwest Passage.
Cool.
And yeah, that's down the road. So until then, I'm going to keep working and keep exploring. I'm not going to live in Prince Rupert forever. This is just a limited time that I'm here for work. And so I don't know where I'll be next, but it'll be in British Columbia on the coast. And I'll continue to live on the boat and continue to explore. And after retirement, I'll probably explore for another 3 to 5 years, and then maybe follow your path and start going around the whole world.
Cool. Maybe we meet up in an anchorage far away from here.
That would be really fun.
Sometime,
Yeah, that would be. It would be good to see you again.
So if people want to follow you, where do they find you?
Oh well, my channel's Life is Like Sailing. I have on Facebook, of course, and Instagram, all the social media platforms, and I have www.lifeislikesailing.com. That's my website. If you want to know things about the boat specifically, I have all the boat specs, or about how did I come to live aboard my boat.
It was great to meet Alfy and Devlin, and before saying goodbye, they showed us some of their favorite spots in northern BC. Thank you for watching. We'd really appreciate a thumbs up, and please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Wish you a nice week and see you next Friday.